Hello, hello, and welcome to Your Mental Health Matters, presented by our neutral voices. I'm Salathiel Reagan, joined by Miss Tamara, as always, and we have a special guest, Amanda McNamara. Did I say that right? I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's McNamara. But yes,
McNamara.
Thank you for having me.
See, I grew up with McDonald's, so I didn't know if I should do the Mac or the Mick. So
that's all right.
With a name like Salathiel, I always I try to ask.
That's okay. It's McNamara.
McNamara, okay. Mm-hmm. And you are the founder and creator of Monarch Mental Health, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. And you're on today to talk about your book and your experience. So, I'll turn it over to you. Yeah. What's going on?
Big leap. Well, again, thank you both, everyone, for having me on tonight. And as far as being able to talk about the journal and how I got here, I'll try and make it as short as possible. But first and foremost, the journal was created out of encouragement from a lot of friends and family. I never imagined that I would have Monarch or a business in itself. Mm-hmm. And I would say the most important thing with the journal is because sometimes the hard things are just too hard to say out loud. Mm-hmm. And my journey started with a journal when I was 19. And so allowing people to have access to this and to learn about the journal and what benefits it has, I really feel could be very helpful for a lot of people who struggle with mental health. This edition is for Bipolar 1. Poor marketing on my end, should have been for Bipolar 1 and 2. Okay. But it's a way to track your symptoms. It's a way to communicate with color theory. There are illustrations in there from local artists, and you can utilize those to convey where you're at emotionally, or if you're dealing with a bipolar episode. I was personally diagnosed with bipolar when I was 19. So coming up on 15 years in August is a little bit of it's been a long time. But through the years and through some serious hardships, I've learned a lot, and I realized how important it was to start taking care of not only myself and well-being, but how intense and important it is to take care of and try and manage your bipolar disorder to the best of your ability. And that's very challenging. So
now when you came upon this idea of color theory, I don't think I've ever heard of that. But can you expand more on that? And then was it something that was introduced to you when you first was diagnosed, or was it just a process leading up to this? And what is color theory?
Yeah. So as far as why I started even thinking of implementing color into helping express myself or utilize it to communicate with my family or my providers is because I've always been an artist. Okay. I went to school for graphic design where I took color theory and as one of my courses. And that was taught by Mr. Jim Williams, who is a phenomenal person. So hello, Jim, and thank you for your education. They said I could look here and tell you that. So thank you.
What's up, Jim?
Yeah. So he great professor and really learned about the more, I guess, the methodical concept of color theory. But as an artist, I've always just been drawn to color of it just being naturally expressive. So when it got to a rock and a hard place again with my health of my deep depression, where I was trialing and error or doing a lot of trial and error with medications, I felt like I had lost my voice again. And I didn't know how. They kept saying, oh, there are doctors and lawyers who are successful with bipolar disorder. And I'm like, okay, cool. What are they taking for medication, you know? And it obviously does not work like that. And they said, well, if you can get a grasp on your episodes, it'll help kind of dial things in and be able to pick a medication that will work. And and so it was a matter of just tracking then, start tracking your episodes, start tracking your symptoms. And I was like, just in the pit of the worst depression and place I'd ever could have imagined, darkest place of my life. And I thought, there's got to be a way out of this.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way that you can have some type of control over something that you can't control. And so I was trying to pull all of the thoughts out of the hat, and I printed off all of these just generic brain logs from Google. And this was probably like 2018, 2019. This one's dated for 21. But I picked orange for mania for me because it's, you know, it's an intense color. It makes me feel, you kind of think of fire, you think of hot. My body would get hot if I'm manic. You know, and then the physicalities of what mania makes me feel like. And so I started just kind of logging those symptoms on these brain logs. And sorry for the rustle of paper.
It's all right.
And so then in college, before I dropped out my junior year, I had the pleasure of meeting Jim or James Williams and taking that course. And so, may I?
Go ahead.
So with color theory, you know, there are plenty of, and I didn't get too scientific with it because I don't want to overwhelm anyone. I want to just be as simplified yet thorough as possible. And so if you think of a bank, maybe your bank, maybe the logo is green or blue. Maybe it's got a hint of yellow in it. But there's a concept with that for going for marketing and graphic design is blue is trustworthy. Green is, you know, balance and fresh and growth. And you think of those things. And so they all have a personality. All these colors have a description to them. Sometimes people want to say yellow is happy and sunny. And it very well could be. But what's also yellow? A caution sign on a road working, you know, caution men working. Road signs could express anxiety. Okay, caution. Do I, you know, caution because I'm nervous or those types of things. And so I tried to just kind of relate then concepts that I had learned from Jim. And I'm still in contact with him, so I'm thankful for our friendship. And my professors at IPFW at the time, who were fantastic individuals, because at the time we didn't even have counseling services there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so lots changed for better.
So what is your target audience for using the book? Is it for children or is it just for young adults or adults? What is your target audience?
As of now, for edition 1, I would say just young adults, because there are some play on words that are maybe not as kid friendly as they should be.
True.
And anyone older, I would say the primary focus would be to have this into the hands of therapists and providers, because as we know, we can't help people who don't want to help themselves. Right. And if it's already in the hands of a therapist and they have a patient or client that's coming to them with, you know, specifically bipolar disorder in this scenario, and they feel it would be of a tool and an asset to utilize it, then that would be ideal.
Definitely.
Unless you're manic and I say this jokingly, by the way, unless you're manic and you're like, you know what, I wonder if they make a color theory symptoms tracker just for bipolar, and they go hunting for it, they're not going to go find it, you know? And so the concept with Monarch is, with this being edition 1, that each edition would be either a different topic or different diagnosis, and be able to kind of work with those, you know, if someone has military PTSD, to be able to work alongside someone who would be open to talking about that situation and maybe what would be of an asset to those who are in the military.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Like I used to recommend the bipolar workbook with the clients I had with bipolar disorder. And again, it was a lot about journaling, charting symptoms, but also teaching those mindfulness strategies in the moment to manage those episodes. And so it's good to know, that there's another thing that people can go to, you know, that's practical. You know what I mean? It's one thing to dive into the academic side of bipolar and all that stuff, but I think what people need is something that's more practical that they can and will use on a daily basis.
Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it.
Definitely.
I'd say one of the main tools that saved my life, and I've reached out to her as well, is Julie A. Fast. Okay. She wrote Take Charge of Bipolar. She personally battles with bipolar, and her story is fascinating. She's very encouraging. She's very open, obviously, about her battle with bipolar, and I reached out to her and told her thank you, because I mean, I learned so much from her and realized again how intense this is. So,
And then you said that you're naturally an artist, correct?
I try my best.
Try your best.
Yeah.
Graphic artist. And I guess when I look at artists and people that can use that creativity, it's almost therapeutic anyway, right?
Yeah.
And have you seen that, like, over the years, even before your diagnosis, was art a thing that calmed you or relaxed you even before you knew anything about the color theory?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, so prior to the diagnosis, just loving art in general. That love started, I'll make it quick, I promise it's going to come full circle really fast. In high school, I had the fantastic teacher, Miss Donna Ballinger. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you
for being absolutely amazing. She opened my eyes to art. Without her, I wouldn't even be here in this process, because what I realized of creating art, learning about art history and developing a love for it, and then going to school for graphic design, which if you put me in front of Adobe, I'm just going to probably black out because I don't know anything. But when it comes to artwork, I realized after college, I was afraid to create anything because I didn't have the black and white guideline. And then I thought, well, this is stupid. Even when I was in college, I didn't follow the rules. What am I worried about now? You know? And so I just started creating with a concept of that I learned from my elementary art teacher, who I've gone back and thanked as well, because it's very important to thank everyone. To close your eyes and just let your pencil take you wherever you go. Open your eyes and start painting. Just get paint on canvas and see where it takes you. And that happened, and I did an art show, and I sold my first painting ever, ironically enough, to my old photography professor.
Nice.
So thank you, Jim Gabbard. And he didn't know it was the story behind it. And it was just fascinating. And so I realized, okay, I'm just going to keep creating. This feels good. But subconsciously, before I was diagnosed, I was drawn to journaling as an outlet, of course. And I was doing art, but I never understood why I was using those as coping skills, or that I was even using them as coping skills. And so then as time went on, dealing with the intense manias and doing outlandish things, wrong things that were just completely out of character, which still can happen. It's bipolar, it's inevitable. But like you said, trying to use those coping skills in the moment to try and rein in on it is not only very important, but obviously exhausting. But I found that by utilizing the texture, utilizing different colors that I felt, that means that yellow, again, can still mean bright and cheery to you, but means anxiety to me. True, and, so on and so forth. So a lot of my artwork, they're very bright, bold colors, and I love to utilize anything typically that includes art history, because they also had a story to tell, and just kind of incorporating those and continuing on to share a story about mental health through my artwork has been one of the most important coping skills. And I encourage a lot of people to come to the art peer group that I lead, because, and I always say, paint on canvas. That's the goal. You don't have to be an artist. It's the concept of what it does to the brain when just trialing creativity.
Well, art's supposed to evoke thought and emotion.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it completely makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the events that you have.
Yes.
Like what days, what times they can.
Yeah, I don't have that right in front of me. But as far as events for Monarch, they're all wrapped around the arts. And the first and most important is Community and Canvas, which Monarch Mental Health is in partnership with School Care Team. And pardon me here.
No, that's all right. Didn't we have someone on from the School Care Team before?
Heather Miller, maybe?
I want to say his name was Cameron, or
I know who you're talking
You know
about.
what I'm talking
I can't remember
Sorry.
his name.
Hi, Cameron.
Yeah.
right. I think
It's
Well,
been about a
anyways,
year.
yeah.
Been a little
That's
over a
okay.
year. Yeah.
see, that's my ADHD.
No, you're good. Welcome.
over here.
I can keep up with this all day long, but we only have 30 minutes.
Right.
So, so school care team, and we created Community and Canvas, which is free to the community. Supplies are included. I'm the one that leads the group. The project changes every group. I usually, of course, love to bring up an artist of the past because I feel that they were given lemons or oranges in life and not lemons, and I feel the same. And so just sharing again their story. It's just a safe space. It's located at Punch Films. That's 206th Street, right down from GI Joe's if you're not familiar. And it's from 6 to 7:30 every other Thursday. So this coming Thursday we'll have group, and then every other Thursday from there.
Gotcha.
April 25th is Arbor Day, and there may be a Bob Ross down in the grassy knoll next to Hyde Brothers. It's me. I'll be dressed as Bob Ross.
That's awesome.
Full Bob Ross. Even Peapod will be on my shoulder.
That's great.
It is open to the community to point blank bring joy and happiness.
Yeah.
There is such a niche community down there. We're, 2.5 blocks from Promenade. We're less than a block away from a housing crisis and those who struggle with that. And I just feel that as we near springtime, we're getting teased with the sunshine, but then some snow. Welcome to, obviously, Indiana. I know, but we're almost through it. And I feel that a celebration of painting happy little trees on Arbor Day just to bring joy. It's a free event, 3 years and up.
What time is that one?
I'm doing that from 3 to 6. And again,
20th.
that's
April 25th.
25th. Yep, Arbor Day.
I said 20th.
No, you're fine.
25th.
Arbor Day.
Arbor Day. Yep. So I'll be down there 3 to 6. Hyde Brothers has been wonderful. Thank you, Lori. I'm getting good at that.
There you go. Hey, gratitude.
Thank you, Lori. She was very she was just great getting things kind of lined up for me to use that spot there. And Chris, who's part of the Bloomingdale Association, I just honestly imagined myself dragging down a giant canvas dressed as Bob Ross and just setting up at like Clinton and Maine and just painting and say, hey, any passerby or, come paint. Yeah. Who wouldn't laugh at a Bob Ross, let alone if they knew it was me, So someone said, reach out to, Chris Walker from Bloomingdale. I said, okay, here we go. And so now I'm going to have a popcorn machine.
Okay.
So we'll have some popcorn. That's always an incentive.
Is this your first year doing it? Or
It is, yeah.
Really?
This was just kind of off the top of the dome. Nice. So I just posted it. If you want to follow Monarch on Facebook, I do my best with social media. And I'm trying to think there is another... I feel like there's something else. Am I missing something?
I don't know.
Oh, I know.
But I do want
Go
you
ahead.
to kind of tell what other activities you have in here. It's not just like the coloring or the doodling, but kind of tell the audience a little bit about.
Yeah, is there like a section for journaling, or is that more like an instructional kind of part?
So at the beginning, again, it's just the fanny pack of knowledge is very important. Nice. But just to go through and see what you feel is going to be most impactful for yourself if you are someone who battles with bipolar and just trying to navigate. Again, I kept it as simple as possible. Sorry, it's probably loud. Explaining color theory at the beginning, and then just simplified bullets of how to use the journal. But the most important thing is using the brain log, kind of like I showed you. It's gone through many, many revisions. So you can do that. This is technically a monthly journal. So it's set up for a month. Don't worry, a second, other editions are coming. So that's set up for, a month. And then
get this completed within a month. Or go
So it's set up for 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yep. That way they can track their symptoms for a full month and then revisit. But again, it's under some serious modification. But the important thing is if you start to see, let's say their colors are, the dark oranges and reds, and they're seeing lots of those happen on the brain here. And they're like, those colors look pretty significant to me. oh, that's the, manic mixed episodes. And if you start to feel that way, what I would do then, if I noticed my personal symptoms of kind of staying there for a week, 2 weeks, that's when I knew red flags were going to go off or were going off.
The idea is to complete this journal under the care of your provider and then have them go over it with you? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Ideally, the journal was created, honestly, just for someone who was battling with bipolar. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. So just so they can gain that awareness and have that for themselves. But then I realized, again, at 19, my journal, journey starting with the journal it was too hard to say out loud that I didn't want to be here on earth anymore. Right. And I was with my mom and my pediatrician, and I couldn't say it out loud. Yeah. It was awful. And so I just remember turning it around and handing my handwritten journal, and it's right here. This is the same journal that I had, and I took to her when I was 19 years old, and I just handed this to her. And Dr. Joyce Fisher, thank you for loving me and saving my life.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Joyce.
Yes. And, with that, I realized as I continued to talk, and again, this was never supposed to be a sales pitch or a product, but I realized again at a baseline, it is a communication tool. So it's up to the person if they want to use it as a communication tool to take back and forth, and I'll get to take back and forth to their provider's office, because there are medical provider appointment pages in here to log those things, because so many times, whether we're at the grocery store, the gas station, you find people, how are you? And it's like, I'm good. Thank you for asking. Right. Even sometimes when your provider, your therapist asks, how are you doing? I'm fine. Thank you. We're so geared and inclined. And I feel, even though I was doing my best to have questions prepared in a different colored pen or have answers written in a different color pen from the provider, and all of the things I tried to rein in to help myself understand my bipolar better, I realized that I probably wouldn't have masked my emotions as much as I did because I wanted to be fine. But so many times I would leave, and I'm like, why didn't I tell her that I'm not okay and I don't feel good? Why didn't I do that? And then of course they're booked out forever. Right. And so the concept is, it is just a safe space for anyone who battles with bipolar to have a release and to gain awareness and understanding of, again, their bipolar, because even though symptoms are so similar, there's also these two blank charts here, because not everyone is going to have the same symptoms of mania.
Everybody's different.
We have a baseline of what that looks like, but what does it look like for you? And so there are, to answer your question, journal pages here. And there are some just little checklists if you need to pick me up. I tried to put in things. One of the most important things that I learned throughout my health journey is, if all you do today is move from your bed to the couch, you have succeeded.
That's progress.
And that is quote from my sister Leslie. So I love you and thank you for saving my life. So those types of things, I tried to think of, would this help someone else? And side note, if I could, this whole journey, I believe, has continued to go and soar, if you will, because of my grandpa, Randy Taylor. And he had his battle with bipolar and lost his life to suicide. And every time I learned something about bipolar and my diagnosis, I just wondered, would this have saved his life? And so as much information as I could gain and learn about it, to not only, of course, try to continue to live, but also to know that he's with me. And I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thank you. And we're glad you're here. So, hey, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. I did want to say, too, kind of a caveat, not just for bipolar, but like I recommended journals to almost every client I ever saw. Because I feel like a journal, I always say, if it's 2:00 in the morning, you get a flat tire at Walmart, you're not going to call your therapist. You know what I'm saying? So having something that's right there every day that you can utilize, and then it also helps you reflect on things, on your symptoms. And I feel like it also, you touched on another great point, is that it can help you organize your thoughts so that you can communicate what you need to the people that need to hear it, you know? And so I definitely encourage everybody to journal, you know, even if it's not every day, you know, just do it.
Well, and I think that's the most important thing to know with journaling in general is it doesn't have to be perfect. Your handwriting is probably not going to be great at all times. And that's one of the most, I think, interesting things along with the color theory is the scientific process and understanding that your handwriting tells a story in itself. If you're angry, you're not writing beautifully. You're mad. And I can see that
and
looking
you're processing that information differently too. You know, it's not just in your head now. You're writing it physically. You're experiencing that information, and visually you're reading it. You know, and so I love it. I think it's great.
Relieve some of the pressures inside. I've found that therapeutic. You know, and I encourage young people, clients as well, to journal.
And get a journal. Like, don't try to do it on your phone. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's lots of cool little apps you can use, but there's something about that physical process of writing.
The tangibility helps with the memory as well. And that's something that I really struggled with too, because of whether it be medication side effects or just here as of late, some other health issues. But the memory factor, again, when you go into a provider's office, how have you been the last 2 weeks? And you're like, think of 2 days ago and you're like, great. But really a week ago you were depressed and you were in bed and something else was going on. So how can you use this as a guide of reference, like you said, and then share that information with your provider? My hope is, my goodness, that you do trust your provider and you are willing to say, this is where I'm at. If you can't say the hard thing out loud, or this is what my brain log looks like. What if we're in a building where there's no service? You don't have your phone. What if your phone's dead? What if? But hopefully you remembered your journal. But I did, again, realize, and it's as it's gone through many different renditions, realized how much direction people need, but you can't give too much. You have to let the creative mind be creative. And that's very important. Again, these colors at a baseline mean, you know, many different things, but what do they mean to you? And so then again, taking that into consideration, but it's gone through, this is my prototype. And so it's gone through so many things, but when it comes to baseline journaling, like you said, you know, picking up a journal, I've had a lot of good response with people saying, I love that it guided, because so many times we open up a blank page and we're like, where do we even start? How do I even, you know, so this just gets it going. It starts the conversation between you and yourself to get it out there and get it processed, like you said.
It's like a prompt. I remember in art school, because I went to art school as well, we would do like 30-second sketches. And I hated it at first because I can't finish my drawing. But then it taught you to kind of put something down quickly and move on. And so, you know, I think maybe that could be something too, as far as, you know, journaling
What
goes.
if you just did like, well, the word vomit page, just open to that and just say, okay, here's three main words. Where's that take me?
You made me think of another thing too that I ran into a lot doing therapy is, you know, people like you. I mean, I'm a likable guy, I like to think, but but you know, they come in and they're like, they don't want to bring you down. They don't want to tell you all these problems they had. And this may be the best conversation they've had all week. You know what I mean? And they don't want to spoil it by telling you all this crazy stuff they've gone through. They want to just enjoy this time, you know, and it's tricky. And I encourage people, you know, no, that's what they're there for. You know what I mean? They're there to help you deal with that stuff. And so again, if you come armed with a journal, I feel it makes you more likely to start discussing those things. And you can still be like, hey, I'm doing great, but here, look at this.
But here, look at this. And you can, definitely have that more organic conversation. And my huge, big dream vision is that if and when they would hand that to a therapist and say, this is where I'm at. Now that provider, therapist, whomever can read it and say, you know what? I don't have to say, where are you at this week? I can now ask a more organic and emotionally connected question to make it not feel so just intense on its own, like opening up a journal to a blank page. Now they're guided of how to navigate through that hardship. They've just been given the answers, in my opinion.
Well, and again, I totally agree with that. And I feel like now we're moving forward instead of just spending half our our session rehashing the past 2 weeks. You know, now we can actually address how you're feeling today from that and move you forward.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Get those coping skills before you leave that door, because that's where, like you're saying, you spend a lot of time rehashing, which is good to a degree, but sometimes you run out of time, and now where are my coping skills? And I'm just being a free bird out here with all these emotions.
Release you to go get on the highway.
Go get that Big Mac.
You know what I mean?
Go emotionally eat.
Yeah, have fun with that traffic.
Yeah, you're okay. See you in 2 weeks. Do it again.
That's great.
So are the drawings, are we just about out of time?
I think we are, but
Okay,
I mean,
I just have
I'm
a
chilling.
quick question because I love the artistry here.
Yeah.
Is that your drawing?
So that was actually the cover was done by my friend Dustin Kiesler.
Okay. He
owns Creative Cat Co. here in Fort Wayne. It's marketing firm, agency. Sorry if I butchered that, but thank you, Dustin, for your wonderful support, encouragement, and
Digging your
beautiful
art.
illustration. Yeah. So he did not think that my original design was good enough.
With your butterfly.
Is it this one?
It was something different.
Okay.
Something
It
different.
was
Okay.
very generic. And he said, we can do better. I'm like, well, now I have to top this every time.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
set the bar very
That's
high.
nice. Yeah.
But he did a beautiful job, and he had another designer, I think, work on it too. So, yeah.
And where can we get, or the audience, where can they get your book?
Yes. The journal is for sale actually at Barnes & Noble.
Oh, okay.
It's on sale at Barnes & Noble. But my preferred way is for you to email me, which is at monarchmhealth.org. Really good email. And that way I can personally set it up for you. It would have been set up via Squarespace, but there's been some lags. But that way I can send mental health stickers and like a kit with it if you want to purchase directly through me. So that's kind of that concept there.
Okay.
Cool.
Or just social media as well.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I mean, again, we could sit here and talk to you all day, but this has been your Mental Health Matters.
Yes.
Brought to you by ONB, our neutral voices. I'm Salathiel.
Miss Amanda.
Amanda, our guest.
And I'm Miss Tamara.
All right, you guys take care of yourselves. Protect your mind.